It's our moment.
Sony spent $100 million to make K-pop Demon Hunters, and then they sold it to Netflix for just $120 million. And it became Netflix's most watched movie of all time. 325 million views to date. That's basically the entire population of America watching it. And the sad part is Sony probably had no idea what it gave away. But also, Netflix had no idea what they bought. So I'll explain both mistakes. Hello, this is Yujin. I'm a management consultant based in Boston, originally from Seoul. Today, let's talk about three things. First, how much did Sony actually lose from walking away from this deal? Second, why the show was such a major hit for fans like me? And third, why Netflix keeps being surprised by Korean content going global. So here's what happened when Netflix first dropped K-pop Demon Hunters on June 20, 2025. Western analysts really dismissed it as too niche for mainstream. And even Netflix executives said, we didn't foresee it reaching this level. But K-pop fans, we went absolutely wild. 72 hours, that's all it took. Twice members, Jonghyun, Jiho, Taeyong, they performed Takedown. But Netflix barely promoted it. And this was a surprise to me because it was such a stark contrast to the massive Squid Game promotion I saw everywhere in both New York City and Seoul. K-pop Demon Hunters was pure organic explosion. But Sony, they just gave it away. So let me show you the math, what Sony had missed. So cost, Sony spent $100 million to produce K-pop Demon Hunters. Then they sold it to Netflix for $120 million in total. If you think about the context, back in 2021, this was a pandemic deal. So the theaters were closed. Sony thought that streaming was safer. And their projection was around 70 to 80 million views. Typical for a streaming release. But what actually happened was 325 million views to date. Still topping both streaming and music charts. 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. Okay, so let's break down what Sony had exactly sold for $120 million. So I'm going to show three different buckets on how much money K-pop Demon Hunters made for Netflix. First is on direct revenue. Second, on partnerships. And last but not least is the long-term franchise value. In the first bucket, direct revenue just from Q3 of 2025. So Netflix counts each view as worth about $1.30. Then you multiply that by 236 million views, which is about the first quarter it came out. You get about $300 million just from streaming. Then they did sing-along events across 1,700 theaters worldwide. That generated $20 million. If you think about it, that's exactly the number Sony made on this deal. And stores selling the merchandise, that was about $30 million. And at that, with the revenue from streaming and hitting the Billboard charts, that's about $20 million in music revenue. $370 million just in 3 months. Sony's entire budget was $100 million. And Netflix made that deal 3x before Halloween. So let me put this in perspective. K-pop is estimated to be a $13.2 billion global industry as of 2025, with projection of 7.5% CAGR, suggesting it could surpass $20 billion in 5 years. The average K-pop fan spends about $142 per year on content. And superfans would routinely spend $500 to $1,500 a year. And as someone who has spent money on SHINee before, I understand the sentiment. And there are over 150 million K-pop fans globally. That's roughly half the population of America. The second bucket is on partnerships. They're integrating with Fortnite. Mobile games are being developed. And live pop-up experience in Seoul, Tokyo, New York, LA are all coming. Brand deals with Naver, Samsung, and other Asian tech giants. The third bucket is on franchise. Industry experts say that the total value of this IP is over $1 billion. Now, the deal structure for Sony was zero equity participation, zero revenue sharing, and zero upside. While Sony probably evaluated this as a content sale, I think there is value in seeing this as a platform acquisition strategy. So Netflix acquired complete intellectual property ownership, all distribution rights, and significant franchise potential. So Sony will maintain production rights for sequels, but Netflix will ultimately have its first look on the agreement. So basically, Sony was trading its long-term franchise for a short-term certainty. And it ended up being one of the most value-destructive moves that they made during the pandemic. It's not to say that Netflix saw this coming, but K-pop fans, I think we saw something in this movie that made it wildly popular around the world. As a 90s kid, I grew up watching the very first generation, the legends of K-pop. We're talking SES, G.O.D, H.O.T, and many more. In Korea, we have something unique called daechang. It roughly translates to group singing. But I think that translation kind of misses the whole point. So in Korean culture, music was never meant to be consumed alone. Our traditional pansori welcomes audience participation. The audience, they would shout out 얼쑤, 좋다, all these 추임새 keep the energy high. In our folk songs, 민요 were also call and response. The community sang as a group while we were fishing, farming, and working together. So K-pop inherited this DNA. When I went to concerts before in Korea, we had sheets of paper printed out with lyrics and underneath like when to say which idol members' names, along with the whole group name, all the different chants, so that everyone is synchronized. It's kind of awesome. And our 응원봉, light sticks, they're Bluetooth controlled now, and you can sync it to the music, creating waves of color that respond to the performance. To me, this culture of being together and bonding through music really reflects Chong. I feel that Western audiences appreciate the performer, and Korean audiences complete the performance. We don't go to concerts to watch someone sing. We go to sing together, to be part of something bigger, to share our hung, the energy, the drive, and the joy that we feel through music. So that's what K-pop Demon Hunters really captured well. In the show, Huntrix, the three idols, fight demons to protect their fans. But in reality, I think K-pop Demon Hunters end up dealing with real demons. The 사생 stalkers, crushing industry pressure, and excessive hate comments. As fans, we show up to support them through it. To me, the film worked really well, especially for adults, because there were so many metaphors. I didn't expect to cry when I watched K-pop Demon Hunters. And what stood out to me was how Rumi was struggling between who she actually is and how she wants to be perceived. This isn't the first time that Netflix missed a mega hit. There's Squid Game in 2021. They expected moderate success in Asia. What happened was 111 million households, and this became their biggest show ever. There was also Physical 100 in 2023. They expected this to be a niche fitness show, but what happened was it became a global viral phenomenon, and Netflix was surprised. Now, K-pop Demon Hunters was considered too risky for theaters by Sony standards, and Netflix considered this an experimental animation. What ended up happening was it was the most watched Netflix film ever. Do you see the pattern and what's going on? And what are these media giants missing? Why do these executives keep underestimating Korean content? It's because they analyze it through the Western framework. They see animation plus K-pop equals for kids. But we see cultural truth plus shared trauma equals something that we can all relate to. The Korean wave, also known as Hallyu, is now worth over $13.5 billion. I don't think the growth of Hallyu is luck or random. Korean creators understand something about the emotional storytelling. Sometimes I feel like we're telling the truth in a fantasy. But when people watch it, they start recognizing something in their real lives. So after the whole shock wore off, what is Netflix doing now? Netflix scrambled. They started putting out sing-along buses, merch, and the voice actors for K-pop Demon Hunters were on SNL. So in the Q3 2025 earnings call for Netflix, they announced that the momentum for new IPs such as K-pop Demon Hunters led to raised guidance. So their new strategy is that Netflix will have multiple Asian animation projects, fast-tracked, gaming crossovers are in development, arcade was already a hit, and then music-driven content are now being prioritized. So for APAC, in terms of subscriber growth, this is interesting. We're seeing 60 million in APAC. That's a solid 33% growth. So Netflix is now chasing what they accidentally created. So here's my prediction. The intentional copies, they won't work like the accident like the K-pop Demon Hunters did. Because you can't manufacture authenticity. You can't strategize your way through a cultural truth. So then, what's the real lesson here? So for Netflix and Sony, stop analyzing content through the lens of Western metrics. Trust the creators to tell the story. And for Sony, maybe start thinking through whether it makes sense to sell something for a flat fee. And for creators, animators, and storytellers, our lived experiences are worth more than market research. Cultural authenticity will always win. And for viewers, when something resonates, it's probably because there is some truth that you recognize in it. K-pop Demon Hunter succeeded because someone at Sony, during production, before they actually sold it to Netflix, understood what it really means to be a K-pop idol. The main vocalist right here, who sang Golden, she used to be a K-pop idol trainee. So what's a cultural truth that maybe Hollywood got wrong about your culture? I would love to hear in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and remember to come back to my next video topic on...
Let's go! It's time to be the GOAT. It's time to enter God mode, man, let's get it going. I wanna be the greatest, energy is overflowing. I know I'm stoking the fire.